Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special webinar today. Some of the greatest collaborations of all time come when rock stars or Hollywood greats come together on the big stage. Bowie and Queen recording under pressure, or Scorsese and DiCaprio in The Departed. But these moments pale in comparison to what you're about to see today. Today, you will witness the coming together of three industry giants, CERM, Esko, and Tilia Labs, in a product collaboration unlike anything we've seen before. And when technology suppliers collaborate, you win. I'm George Follickman. Today, I am joined by three all-star panelists. First, from CERM, Peter Daunt. Peter is the head of sales and business development, where he focuses on expanding CERM into new business and geography. Next, we have Tyler Thompson, director of technology solutions at Tilia Labs. He joins us with a rich background in both packaging and computer science. Tyler holds a master's of science in computer information systems and is a thought leader in this field. Finally, joining us from Esko is Ken Polspol, Global Solutions Manager. Ken has over 15 years experience in packaging and prepress industry. In his role, Ken advises key clients in adopting technology-forward solutions to realize improvements in quality and productivity. This is intended to be an interactive event, so I encourage you all to use the Q&A functions of Zoom to ask questions. It's there at the bottom of your screen. Our presenters will answer them in real time or during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Tyler Thompson.
Great. Thanks, George. George, can you see the full screen? Just want to confirm.
Yes, we can see the full screen.
Perfect. Great. Excellent. Thanks for the fantastic intro to this webinar. So yeah, just webinar, quick overview of our agenda. We'll start with market dynamics, look at the industry, specifically the sheetfed label industry and market dynamics around it. Then we'll move into the vendor integration, talk a little bit about why CERM, Tilia Labs, and Esko have joined forces to provide an end-to-end solution for sheetfed label converters. Then we will move into what that end-to-end workflow looks like. So we'll walk you through a sales inquiry all the way down into estimation, production planning, and ultimately out to pre-press and plates. So we'll look at how we're really connecting the dots between our three companies. And then we'll wrap it up with Q&A. Like George mentioned, you can use the Q&A feature in Zoom and ask questions along the way, or you can hold your questions till the end and just chat them with the last 15 minutes or so that we'll have for Q&A. So why is this important? Well, if we look at the packaging trends today, we'll see SKUs are quickly proliferating, and we see this happening, in seasonal and holiday promotions. We also see this same thing happening with product line extensions, flexible packaging formats, and it's not just, of course, one flavor. Thanks to the millennials and Gen Zs, we now see tens or hundreds of different flavors. So you can think, well, you can think my generation and the generation that's ahead of us. So in 2016, some 40,000 CPG products came to market, which was more than twice as many that came out in 1998. And if you look at Suave and the beauty and healthcare, the same scenario is happening where SKUs are proliferating. Suave has 8 times as many unique SKUs as it had in 2007. So, the printers and converters are feeling this challenge of, a greater variety of labels in shorter run lengths. So because of this SKU proliferation, the run length or order quantities are going down, but at the same time, the number of SKUs or number of jobs that we're being asked to manage is going up. And at the same time, the brand owner is, asking to constantly decrease the manufacturing costs, and while providing an increased number of SKUs and shorter run lengths, and faster turnaround, the brand owner is pressuring for faster to market and faster turnaround times from the printer converter. So this becomes an extremely complex, challenging problem when asking to deal with an increased number of SKUs. So if we look at the human planning in the pre-press steps, you know, this concept of trying to manage multiple SKUs and plan and produce production orders for multiple SKUs is typically done in a manual or an Excel calculated way. Like you see on the left-hand side, it's not uncommon to have a 40-inch press sheet laying down on a flat surface, and seeing how many out can fit, how many labels can fit on our sheet fed or our 40-inch or B1 press sheet. And with these multiple SKUs comes multiple approval cycles, you know, many opportunities for double entry of data, you know, and it's not uncommon to see this process of production or imposition planning to take one to 2 days, and then another 1 to 2 days of taking that production plan and doing the pre-press and impositioning in the pre-press department, and then again another 1 to 2 hours to then ultimately impose that press form to be sent out to plates. And if we look at a very simple scenario here, I've got a B1 press sheet, a 40-inch press sheet, and I've got just one SKU, one label order of 50,000. And this SKU is 9 inches by 9 inches. And the question in production planning and pre-press is always, you know, how many sheets is this going to take if I need to estimate this job? How many press forms is this going to take? And how many up of this SKU are we going to be able to fit on our press sheet? So in this scenario, it's a pretty simple, I would say pretty simple problem to solve, right? So you just, well, divide 9 into 40 and, you know, across and around, and you should come to the conclusion that you're going to get 8 up on your press form of this particular SKU to fulfill the order, and it's going to take you 6,250 sheets to run or produce this job. So that's a pretty simple problem to solve, but the problem gets a little more complex when we need to solve or try and combo more than one SKU on a press form. So if we look at this, again, simple scenario here, we've got 2 SKUs, blue and orange. One SKU is being ordered at 50,000, and SKU number 2 is being ordered at 25,000. So what's the best way to plan the production for this job? Well, the size didn't change, right? So we know we're still going to get 8 up, but there's really 2 ways to answer this problem, right? We can start by comboing these up, the 2 SKUs up on the same press form, which is going to give us a 20% overrun on SKU number 2, on the orange SKU. So we'll get 8 up again, and we'll have to run 10,000 sheets. Or another way to solve this problem is doing self-runs. So is this running one press run more optimized, or is at 10,000 sheets? Or is it more cost effective to split these SKUs up on 2 different self runs, which takes us, you know, from 10,000 press sheets to 9,375. So we save about 1,700 sheets of paper or sheets of our material. But we now have introduced an additional press cleanup and an additional press changeover. Right? So what is the most cost-effective way ultimately to solve this problem? And then, of course, the problem becomes even more complex when we try and solve this problem with, well, more than just 2 SKUs, right? In this case, 9 SKUs with ranging, you know, order quantities, different spot colors, different finishing effects, potentially different die cuts, right? The number of possible permutations to run through becomes, you know, a very challenging or increased number of different possibilities to evaluate. So ultimately, you with our technologies, we're trying to really look at this process of human planning and pre-press and integrate the order information and use modern technology to solve this problem and streamline this process to make the most efficient end-to-end solution to manage our increased number of SKUs. So let's just take a quick look at the vendors that are coming together for this integration. So with best-in-class solutions really in each of our respective software offerings, CERM at the bottom left there in the order entry phase, Esko in the pre-production pre-press stage, and Tilia Labs in the production planning stage really have come together to join forces to build a streamlined solution for sheet-fed label converters. CERM in the order entry phase is really leading the label market in providing MIS solutions to easily create quotations, capture orders both on and offline, and manage production with an easy-to-use user interface. Esko, as we all know, is and continues to really lead the industry with end-to-end solutions for label converters. Esko offers online artwork approvals, intuitive label pre-press editors, and GUI-driven workflow automation solutions for label converters to streamline this pre-production, pre-press tasks, which we'll see today. And then lastly, at the bottom right is the production planning. So relatively newer to the industry, Tilia Labs really focuses on that challenging task of production and combination form planning. So after Tilia Labs, which was the inception was in 2012 of Tilia Labs quickly became an industry leader in developing this disruptive, modern AI-driven technology for print production estimation, print production planning, and print production and positioning. So we'll see how all of these technologies have come together to integrate. And then lastly, these technologies are award-winning solutions, each of which earning Intertech awards in recent years. And for the first time, we're going to see how these companies have come together to provide this turnkey solution for sheet-fed label converters. So connecting the dots, we're going to navigate through a typical sales inquiry to production workflow for sheet-fed labels. So we'll start with the sales inquiry and then move into the RFQ process, and then look at managing that RFQ and ultimately confirming the order, moving that order information into the pre-press department with a pre-press order, and then ultimately creating a production plan with our many label orders that we've captured during the sales inquiry. And then lastly, end with our print production plan and imposition forms. So today we see this kind of siloed technologies handling each one of these steps. And really what we're trying to solve here is connecting the dots in providing a streamlined, really data-driven approach to managing a production or a label order from sales inquiry to the RFQ process all the way through print production planning by sharing data, passing the data off, and really integrating these technologies to reduce double entry and just make the process more efficient. So we'll start with the RFQ process. So a sales inquiry will come in, and then ultimately we're going to capture the sales inquiry and build the quotation, the RFQ inside of CERM. So with CERM, we have a full MIS system, industry specific for label converters. And CERM is going to interface directly with Tilia Phoenix to generate quickly and figure out the estimation. for the one or many labels that are being requested for a quote. And this interface is going to happen with Tilia Phoenix to the right. So Phoenix is going to be working in the background with an API connectivity. And Phoenix is ultimately responsible for calculating the estimate. So based on the order information or the sales inquiry, Phoenix is going to look at, the label size, is going to look at the order quantity, the material, and back to CERM. So I'm going to hand it over to Peter now. So Peter from CERM is going to walk us through the RFQ process, generation of a quote, and then ultimately highlight the integration between CERM and Tilia Phoenix.
Right, Tyler, thank you for the introduction. So we will start with a typical workflow. You can see here a request for quote coming in my email. It's a pretty simple one. You see there are 3 pale ale labels, all of 3 in full color, same size, just different quantities. As Tyler indicated, we can handle much more complexity, like different colors, different materials, even different brand owners. We can alt test this while putting them into the system. But in this case, we kept it pretty simple. So we're moving to CERM and we're going to generate a quotation now, indicating a first page, some administrative details like the customer, the name, the Indian Pale Ale labels family. So it's a quote for a new set of labels with a total quantity of 29,000. You can indicate where and when it needs to be shipped to calculate your shipping cost. On the second screen, you split the 29,000 again in the 3 different SKUs. So one SKU, the Pale Ale, 10,000, a specific size. You can indicate, let's say, the grain direction, which you can see on your right-hand side, in the width or the height, and it's all 3 is full colors. Different quantities were 10, 12, and 7,000, totaling 29,000. That's the first thing. You describe the details of the different, we call it versions or SKU that you would need for this quotation. The substrate or the material we're going to print on, this is a wood-free machine coated 80 grams, and we'll look in the stock what we have, and you can take 1 or multiple sizes of materials you want to calculate on. And then I have 2 machines, a medium size and a bigger size, where we're going to calculate the step and repeat on, and we can push to Tilia, let's say a profile where Tilia has to respond to. You can indicate, I want the labels combined in vertical strips, horizontal strips, or whatever kind of limitation you want to push. The result is, as you can see here, a step and repeat ordered by the total cost of that, including print and plate cost. And you can see it could be 1 set of plates, multiple set of plates. They are all ordered by the total cost of the production of these labels. This is completely calculated by Tilia and given back to CERM, which is shown here again in a specific order. Now, this was the calculation of the print sheet. We can have a look at those print sheets where you can see, first of all, that there are 3 different labels on there, both with their specific quantities. Now you can apply specific finishings to those labels. Each of these labels you can add, for instance, die cutting on the bush, but for each individual label you can apply different finishings. There could be a hot foil added, there could be lamination added to the back label, for instance, you name it, you can have different finishings depending on the SKU. All this results in a cost and a weight. We can indicate how it needs to be packed. You see 1,000 copies per foil and number of foils per box, resulting in a number of foils and boxes to calculate. To eventually put a markup, a price per 1,000 or a total cost or a percentage as a markup, you name it, resulting in a quotation letter that you can email directly out to your customer, as you can see. Those quote letters can be generated by an integrated report generator and contain all technical details that you just estimated. Now this can be sent out. To complete the file, let's say, we can as well link the original request for quote that you received by email. So jumping back to the email, you see this one, I want to link and I slide it simply onto the quotation in CERM and we'll link the email to that. So you have a complete electronic filing system with the original request for quote, which you can see there linked to the quotation in the CERM database. This as a quick overview of the quotation made. Back to Tyler, I would say.
All right. Great. So thank you, Peter. So going back to our workflow map, again, we started with the email coming in from the customer. We generated and looked at the RFQ process to build the quotation. So we captured the order, captured the quotation inside of CERM. CERM talked to Phoenix to quickly generate and calculate the number out on the sheets for the estimate. We then sent the estimate over to the quotation to the customer, and now we're at this process of order confirmation. So in the order confirmation phase, again, this is primarily driven by CERM. CERM allows for viewing the quotation's status and approvals, managing the requests, and then ultimately passing the order data once the order is confirmed to Esko's automation engine to manage the prepress functions with the data that was captured during the estimation process. And lastly, CERM offers a quite unique ability to allow customers the ability to order products online through their Web for Labels online portal. So once we've confirmed the order and the customer says, yep, we're good with this quote, let's go ahead. Again, we've then captured the order information in CERM, passed that information down to Esko's automation engine, and now we are at the prepress order stage.
Okay. Thanks, Tyler. What is automation engine? It is Esko's packaging workflow engine, and it's built basically to save time on repetitive non-value-added tasks within the prepress. And it does that by standardizing the pre-production process. It eliminates errors and increases your pre-production throughput. You can build in specific packaging expertise and centralize it in workflow tickets so that it can be used by anybody within the prepress environment. And you're not relying on a certain skill level from a specific operator. It also has an award-winning integration toolkit, what allows you to do integration with CERM in this case, or Tilia. And it's in an easy and sustainable way. So many of these frequently requested partner integrations that we come across during some integration projects have been turned into standard integrations. And it allows our customers, our prospects, to accelerate the overall rollout of connected business systems, like what you will witness today with the integration of CERM and Phoenix during this demo in a minute. So this is about the prepress order. So we start from CERM and we go through automation engine. So giving back the word to Peter.
Thank you, Ken. And we're getting back to the original quote, which the customer has ordered. And because it's a new product family, we take the new quotation and we're going to generate the new products out of there because everything is product driven. So this will generate 3 new product IDs with a specific status, and it contains all technical details like the size, the colors, etc. Finishing this will generate 3 products with individual IDs and a specific status that shows in fact, what the program requests now as a next step. So if we look at the 3 products generated just a minute ago, we see here 3 IDs, the 681, 82, and the 680, both of all 3 with the status waiting for files. So we're gonna link now the files from the order confirmation. So the Quackers India Pale green, we're gonna link with the first one. We accept, and we will do this for all 3 of these products. Linking this will in fact make the connection with Automation Engine as well, and link those files directly into Automation Engine as well. We will see while this continues that the status will gradually evolve as well, getting information back. You see pre-flight okay, and the first one has the design already back. These statuses get back from Esko Automation Engine. Ken?
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at Automation Engine. We CERM created a Prepress order per SKU they have added, and within that Prepress order we have a product linked to it. So looking at one of these Prepress jobs, you can already see that the workflow has started. There is a product linked, which is a unique SKU entry in the database, which has its own status of where it is in the workflow. For instance, this one mentions that it's size okay. Each product can have its own parameters. So in this case, we're showing this in a sheetfed label environment, but for a narrow web, we could have different parameters linked as well, or similar parameters, but to drive different processes. So let's have a look at the product parameters. Each one of those have, of course, a unique ID, and it can have specific parameters to drive your automation process. So in this case, it's sheetfed. It mentions maybe the size of the label, so that we can do a size check between the original customer artwork, whether the trim box is indeed what the customer ordered. As an interaction with your Prepress operator, we could have a wait for action, what you have just saw there. And in that wait for action, we extract all the relevant data for that Prepress operator. And assume that could be a moment where he starts editing the file in his preferred editor, like RPro Plus, for instance. And then after completing that step, we continue with additional pre-flight. A pre-flight which is actually looking at the output intent, so specific, dedicated for the output intent, just to ensure that the Prepress operator didn't make any mistake. In the workflow also, we create assets for providing back to CERM, like a soft proof report or a good for print legend. We create XMP information about the actual colors, and we could also extract some die information. And everything what you see here on the file share of Automation Engine is one-on-one shared with CERM, so it's accessible for the CERM operator as well. The workflow is updating the status of the file, so proof has been sent. So let's have a look at the mailbox of our customer. And the customer in this case has received an email with an approval link. And by clicking on this view document, he can open up the viewer. And we are, in this case, we are using Share and Approve. It's an online collaboration platform, a service that and cloud-based, and without having to install a system or download plugin as an end user, you can simply make use of this service and invite your customers for approving the file, even checking the separations, making some measurements on the barcode, maybe do some annotations, maybe comment on a file, measure the barcode, and so on. So all that is available with the Share and Approve. And in this case, we're just doing it on a simple file, but we can also do bulk email to a bunch of files, for instance. Another nice feature is we can simulate a 3D by simply choosing some options here. We can simulate profiles like substrates and so on, and simulate the label in 3D. And then turn it around, have a look at it, how it will end up on the actual packaging container. And the ultimate goal, of course, is to approve this file, what we will do now. And this approval state is actually triggered by the customer, so there is no nobody in your company involved. We automatically change the status of this product in CERM. We do the same in automation engine, so you have a synchronized status of this specific product at all times. Here you can also see the colors back into the CERM interface that we have extracted and the ink percentage that have been used. Sorry, Peter, I'm stealing your show here, I guess. But that's the information that we're sending back to CERM. Also, from the CERM operator also has access to that all the data that the workflow has produced. So there's no duplication of data. And so you're always working with a correct version of the file.
Thanks, Ken. The last step here is that you can have an overview of all the changes in the status assess for this individual product, so you can have a full backlog of that. Tyler?
All right. Perfect. Great. Thanks, Ken, Peter. So just back to the overview workflow map. We started with the RFQ, got the order confirmation, or just looked at how we capture the order confirmation and ultimately send that information down to Esko's automation engine for the prepress order to streamline the prepress tasks and capture and confirm the order. Now we're moving into the last phase here of production planning. So once we've captured the order, customer approves the artwork, we're now ready to grab our approved artworks, approved orders, and then convert these into production output files. In the production output stage, so again, CERM has captured the order information and is delivering this order information to both Phoenix, Tilia Labs' Phoenix, and Esko's automation engine. And using Phoenix, again, using Phoenix's imposition AI to the right-hand side there, what Phoenix does is navigates through different permutations and different combo form options, ultimately trying to search for the cheapest, most cost-effective ways of comboing your production orders to create the most efficient production imposition plan. CERM provides the end-to-end solution from capturing the sales inquiry all the way through and managing the process and data through the production order. And the interface between both Esko and Tilia Labs provides the elimination of double entry of data, right? Avoiding any potential errors and just streamlining the process to quickly get a quote and then ultimately quickly get and conclude a production order with the calculations of Phoenix. And lastly, the JDF file from CERM is delivered to output via Esko's automation engine, and automation engine is ultimately going to be responsible for screening and outputting the production 1-bit TIFF imposed files.
Right, Tyler. So the last step is registering the purchase order of the customer. So this means that now that we have the product IDs, we will fill them in a sales order. This can be easily done. I mean, this could be exactly the same quantities as you made the quote for, so 7, 10, and 12,000, or it could be different quantities as well. From different product families. This is a simple case, like I've already told you, this is a one-on-one. So out of here, now we have the 7, 10, and 12,000 registered, when we will launch the ganging again, meaning that we will show you here an overview again of the products with their technical specifications. You can regroup them differently if you say we would like to combine orders from different customers on one plate. That's possible as well. And we will call Tilia again, asking to calculate on one or multiple materials. You can limit down again the presses and indicate, let's say, certain priorities. If it's a one-on-one, so 100% ordered what is being quoted, you don't even have to go over these screens, but it is possible, again, like I said, if you have different quantities, to have a renewed step and repeat calculated here. This will eventually create the job with a new job ID, right? And will push the JDF file towards the external partners like Esko Artwork now to calculate this. You can see we have made subdirectories specifically for Esko. Ken?
Yeah, so back to automation engine. So the sales order has been converted into a production order, and we have received all the data. Products have been linked. So in here, the products with the approved stage. So we can't produce any products without having that specific approved state. So that's an extra security that is built in there. And the JDF describes the positioning of the individual products and is creating the layout. And we could potentially also add some marks and the smart marks on the sheet layout. And then in this case, we're launching our QA step, QA module to validate the PDF file before we're actually sending it to the CTP device for creating some plates. So that's what you see here. And that's the very last step of this demo. Again, yeah, the whole layout is coming from the API interface with Tilia, the calculation, and we're executing and linking those products on the correct position on the step and repeat by reading the JDF and converting it to a PDF file. Okay, back to you, Tyler.
Excellent, great, thank you, Peter and Ken. So just to wrap up here and review the connection of the dots, we started with the sales inquiry from the customer, email, moved that into a RFQ. So we generated a quotation in CERM. The quotation was quickly generated and calculated with the connection via Phoenix for calculating the number out on the sheets. That data was pushed back, RFQ sent, and submitted to the customer. We saw then the order confirmation and prepress order steps happen between CERM and Esko's automation engine. So once the customer approved the RFQ or the quotation, the order was confirmed, products were generated in CERM, passed down to Esko's automation engine, where we then facilitated the pre-press steps in our automation engine. The one-up design files were then sent for an approval through Esko's share and approve portal. So that was the pre-press and order confirmation. And then we just wrapped up with the production planning, where you saw again the connection between CERM and Tilia Phoenix to generate and calculate the most cost-effective way of comboing our orders, and then ultimately sending that order data JDF file of the imposed forms to Esko to generate the production output. So that is the streamlined end-to-end workflow. And George, I'm gonna send it over to you and see, we've got about, looks like 10 minutes or so for questions.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Tyler, Ken, and Peter. Really, really fantastic presentation. We had quite a few questions come in, and just wanted to remind everyone, if you do have questions, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Feel free to throw those questions into that window here, and we'll answer them. Had a bunch of questions come in. The first one I'm actually going to field myself. The question was, where can I find a recording of this webinar? And immediately after this presentation, we will be posting this webinar to YouTube and distributing it through email. We'll also replace the videos with a higher resolution video, so that'll be available on YouTube. I'm going to throw this next one to actually each of you, but Ken, I'm going to start with you. What modules are required for this integration?
Okay, so it's the automation engine, the automation engine itself, job management, because that allows you to have a database both for jobs, for managing jobs and the products. There is a processor module which is pre-flight, then layout, which is actually creating the step and repeat files, and then optional is proof and a report maker, and a Q&A module, but that's optional. But that's all documented in our standard integration for these partner integrations.
Awesome, awesome. Peter, is there anything?
Well,
is there anything specific?
In our case, you would need the production job module. Of course, if you have to create a step and repeat, the individual products as the product module, and the link with automation engine. These are the minimum 3s that you would need.
Awesome. How about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm muted still. No, I'm not. Okay. Yeah, on our end, Phoenix and imposition AI. And we do have an optional die module. So if the labels are being die cut or being planned on a given die, we have a CAD module, which is optional. If all of the labels are square cut or guillotine cut, then that's of course not required. And then the automation module. The automation module allows Phoenix to expose an API. That API, of course, is required for the integration with Esko and CERM.
Great. Tyler, I'm going to throw this one to you. Is there a variation of this integration or workflow for narrow web, flexo, and or folding cartons?
Yeah, so we are working specifically with, in regards to this particular integration, we're working to expand on what you saw today with sheetfed labels to provide solutions for additional label converters, specifically around roll-fed devices, roll-fed label converting, as well as some interesting new integrations with folding cartons. So yeah, that's something that we're something to keep an eye out for, but today not commercially available yet.
Perfect, thank you. Peter, is CERM hosted locally or in the cloud?
It's hosted locally, meaning you have your own server. If that one is in a data center or locally on site, that doesn't matter, but it's not, let's say, browser based. It's a server that you would need, but wherever it is, in the data center or locally.
Perfect. I got another question here. This one's a little more technical, but Ken, I'm going to toss this one to you. Where does the conversion to the JDF format occur?
I mean, from the very end to convert it to PDF, that's done in, actually there are two options. In Phoenix, you can also export a PDF for step and repeat purposes. I heard, but if you, for instance, want to manage your screening, then the preferred way is to go for the automation engine, and then automation engine will convert that JDF into a PDF for sending it to the RIP.
Perfect, perfect. Let's see here. There's a ton of good questions. And by the way, folks, if we don't get around to answering your specific question, we will follow up after this presentation. Mm-hmm. Tyler, there was a question specifically around Phoenix and which platforms, which operating systems it's compatible with.
Yeah, so Phoenix is cross-platform. It can be installed on Windows, Mac OS, or if you're running it headlessly, like you saw in the demo today, it could be installed on Linux as well.
All right. Another good question here, and I think I'm gonna. Well, I'm not sure who to ask this to. Maybe Tyler or Peter. Will this calculate the P&L, your P&L reports?
That's probably a Peter question on the CERM side.
Calculate your P&L reports. Well, it's a full MIS, so it does calculate, but we do not have our own financial package. It means that we can export all data to an external accounting package, but it can export P&L figures indeed. Correct.
Awesome. Peter, here's one more for you, and I think we'll wrap it up after this one.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, is CERM Share and Approve a separate entity to the online purchasing system, or do you need to have web for labels?
Well, this is, let's say, first of all, Share and Approve is an Esko software. So you do not need to have web for labels for that, as far as I'm.
So Share and Approve is a service from Esko.
That's right.
For managing the approval. More info indeed on our website, and it can work in isolation or just with a simple Deskpack Illustrator plugins, or with the workflow connected to the workflow like automation engine.
That's right. So it's regardless of web for labels. So it's linked through the product ID, so the unique identification of the product, which is the same between Esko and CERM. So without web for labels, you have a direct connection to the product database.
Awesome. Great. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up. A huge thank you to both the Esko and the CERM teams for their help in making this presentation come together. Of course, a huge thank you to all of you for jumping on today. Really appreciate your time. Be on the lookout for a follow-up email. We will send a link to the recording of this presentation. I encourage you to share it with your colleagues or on social media. Finally, if you aren't already, please follow all three of our companies on LinkedIn and YouTube. We're millennials, and nothing gives us a higher sense of purpose than watching our follower count grow. Thank you, everyone, and have an excellent rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.